On today's show, Rick Carlisle. Another shot on the way out, possibly, and more on the conference finals.
I don't have anything else to say.
On today's Locked On Mavs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com. The conference finals fiend, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
I was thinking, as you switched our pictures on here, I was thinking of the
On
Twitter
YouTube.
account, the Twitter account out there who is out of context, Locked On Mavs. And shout out to whoever you are who posts random pictures of us.
I think I know who it is.
Oh, we need to talk off air. Rick Carlisle.
There's a movie about a motel named after him.
Oh,
There you go.
I will look into this. Yeah, so conference final stuff. We'll talk about that today. We also want to talk about Rick Carlisle and Jamahl Mosley stuff that Tim Cato reported on his podcast. Tim McMahon, Jake Fisher, who we had on a few weeks ago. I guess it was a few weeks ago or last week. All of my Mavs timeline stuff is running together at this point.
It's all going together.
But Rick Carlisle, Jamahl Mosley, I tweeted out the same day of when Rick Carlisle came out with this statement about the kid stuff and endorsing kid. I tweeted out that day and said, this was a low ball move from Rick. I hated that. I thought it was a cheap shot towards Mosley. And I feel that way even more at this point.
This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Download the app and join us this week. Sometime, promise. We promise we'll get back and finally do one of these. We'll be back at Spotify Green Room app. Like Isaac said, we'll talk about the Rick and Jamahl Mosley situation. There's some weird, interesting quotes and just things going around. We'll try and sort that all out and try and figure out what it means for the Mavericks. Conference finals also happening right now. Injuries all over the place. Like just an incredibly weird slate of, like, imagine one of the most injured seasons in the NBA and Kristaps Porzingis made it through. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just wild.
That's mean.
a little bit mean.
You just had to take a shot.
It's just ironic that he is known as being super injury prone. These guys that are known for being like Iron Men, like Kawhi, or not Kawhi, Giannis, James Harden, like guys that have just never missed time, all of a sudden missing time now. Trae Young misses the conference finals game that the Hawks win. Giannis is out with an injury. So we'll talk about the conference finals. Where do we think it all stacks up? Who's going to win the finals and all that? We'll get into that. So, but before we do that, Jamahl Mosley joining Team USA Select team coaching staff with Eric Spoelstra. Congrats to him. Go out and get that experience. Go out there. It's the select team. So it's the team that plays the Olympic team. So it's not the team. It's not the team with Popovich that's going to go win the gold medal. It's the team that kind of scrimmages against that team, basically. The JV team of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, you're with all those players. He's done this before. He's been with Team USA stuff before. We reference that a lot whenever forming relationships with players as they come through Dallas to play the Mavs and stuff. He always be on the court to happen them up after the game and all of that. So he's been a part of Team USA, and now he continues to be part of Team USA in the coaching world.
Yeah, very interesting. But there's been a couple of reports, like Isaac alluded to. This one coming from Jake Fisher. I'll just read the whole quote. Jason Kidd is also known to be close with Dallas Governor Mark Cuban, and several sources with knowledge of the situation suggested Rick Carlisle vouched publicly for Kidd because of his own frayed relationship with Mavericks assistant Jamahl Mosley. A noted defensive mind, Jamahl Mosley has cultivated strong relationships with Dallas players, particularly Luka Doncic. Also, on Tim Cato's podcast, he mentioned the frayed relationship between Carlisle and Mosley and how Carlisle basically, when he was endorsing Kidd, when he was taking the Indiana Pacers job, was also sort of burning a bridge with Jamahl Mosley as well. Just a weird thing. Like we talked about Rick Carlisle's statement when he endorsed Jason Kidd before the Mavericks actually made the decision, before it was even reported. We said this is more about Kidd than it is, or this is more about getting back at Cuban than it is about getting at Jamahl Mosley or taking a dig at Jamahl Mosley. Guess what? We were wrong about that apparently, because Rick Carlisle did mean it to be a dig against Jamahl Mosley, and that's insane. Like, is it just PR, or is it just bad press that Rick Carlisle is getting? Because it just seems like these quotes and the things that he's doing and the way that he was perceived just keeps getting worse and worse as, you know, the exit gets farther and farther away.
Well, yeah, it's kind of twofold, because I do want to go in on that.
It's several fold. It's more than one.
Yeah. Because I think it's also a natural thing for fans too. I'll take up for a second, even though I will be first in line to go the opposite way here in just a sec. I think it's also easy for fans, especially coming off a series and a season, that some fans still probably think that it was a failure. When you're up 2-0 and just how all of that went down, a lot of criticizing of Carlisle's decisions, all of that stuff. Then you take that, combine it with Carlisle's personality, combine it with all the reports of how him and Luka, there's tension there, which was very true, all of that. And so it's this combination. So then it's almost like the fun thing to do as the fans of like, just jump on, like, he's a jerk, get him. And then he quits, he's out of town, he goes to another team. So then it's even more, because then you don't really have anything to lose at that point, right? It's like, even like media and reporters, like, oh, well, we're not going to talk to him anymore. So, and then it's just all coming out because he's leaving town. And then it was how, like, he's contributed to that. So
yeah,
it's kind of like
none of this is unfounded, right? Like, it's just,
yeah. Well, I was just going to say, I think it's easier to do that with a coach who lost the series like they did, and then he leaves town to go take another job. Just take everything out of the equation. Yeah. That situation alone, that path alone, is easier for fans to jump on and take the bashing angle too.
He betrayed us. He's the one that left. It's not like he was fired and you're kicking a guy while he's down. Like, no, he decided to leave on his own terms.
Exactly. Now, what he did with the Jamahl Mosley stuff, I mean, are we past that? Like, I feel like we're old enough to like be past these subtle shots, and like, you are the president of the Coaches Association. And if you're taking this angle to take a shot at one of your main assistant coaches, I just think that's a cheap shot. Like, I don't see, like, what are we doing? And the more that this goes on without, like, Rick has these main, like, beat reporters' cell phone numbers. Anytime he wants to make any statement, he'll text McMahon, he'll text Cato, he'll text some of these guys and tell them, hey, here's a statement. And if this is widely reported like it is now, and it wasn't true, I would have already expected a tweet from one of them saying, hey, this has been out there. I love Jamahl Mosley. I would have never do that. And for him, and to take
wish
up
him all
for
the
him.
best. All
exactly.
That.
We haven't got that. So to me, that tells me that it is 100% true, and that's just stupid. Like, that's just a low shot at Mosley. It sounds like jealousy. It's like, hey, if he could connect with everybody on your team, but you couldn't, then what's going on? Maybe you got to look at yourself. So that's the thing this really frustrates me, that the head of coach association makes a call like this, and a guy like Jamahl Mosley, who is very beloved, not just with the Mavs, but across the league. And
I'm Team USA Select.
Yeah. And you're jealous kind of because he connected with the star player more than you do, but you know, it's all cool. Go enjoy Indiana.
I'm just so annoyed at how long do we have to do this with Rick Carlisle, right? Like, are we done?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's kind of unfortunate that it's like turning this route. Like, I want to be careful.
The best coach in franchise history won the title.
Yeah.
Like, we should be celebrating his career with the Mavericks, and yet we're doing this because he brought it upon himself to go out and make these shots and to act the way that he did while he was the coach and all that. It sucks.
Yeah, and it's like, how would it have been perceived if Rick didn't make the statement that he did?
Yeah.
How would it have been different? I would have still had personal opinions about it, that you guys got that on the first initial pod when he resigned. But take that aside, I still think a lot of the fan base would have just been hats off to Rick. Thank you for all you've done. But the moment he said that statement and endorsed Kidd, it made it. And now that we see the motive behind it too, then that's just an added part on it. And it's like, okay, like, come on, like, sure. But so, yeah, Tony East, How you doing?
Good luck, bud. Good luck, Locked On Pacers. Let's get
And
into.
we say good luck, but they're honestly probably gonna be like a top 4 seed in the East next year.
He'll be
gonna do great. Yeah,
he's still a good coach. Like that doesn't change anything about any of this, right?
it does add some fun schedule stuff that we're all gonna be looking at. Of when's the first Pacers game? You know, if Mosley gets hired.
Luka's circling that. Like he's gonna.
I cannot
Sharpie on his
wait for
calendar.
that
Like
game.
right there.
Got that game. Let's just put it in the bag right now. Will we get a Luka Doncic
50-point
stare? 50-pointer
50-point.
Stare at Rick. Like, I need him to do a step back, stare over.
If you're in the chat right now on YouTube, if you're from Slovenia or you speak another language besides English that Luka does, what word will he use? Put it in the chat, put it in the comments.
And also, if Mosley gets a head coaching job, like if Mosley gets the Orlando job or he gets, the Pelicans job, something like that, I think that will be a fun one to watch too when they play the Pacers. Of okay, a little added stuff for Mos now.
Yeah, he can coach real hard. I think that'll be fun for Luka too, because he'll joke and he'll say stuff to Jamahl Mosley like in a playful way, like in a fun way, right? Like not in a vengeful, like spiteful way. But
Luka versus Mosley will be fun. I meant like Mosley versus Rick. And what if against the first Pacers game, Mavs Pacers, he walks in with like a t-shirt on with like him and Mosley like arm around each other on the t-shirt into the game.
Or it's Mosley and Luka.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Luka walking in with himself and Mosley on a t-shirt or something. That'd be funny.
We'll get into some more about the Mavericks in the conference finals and a lot more stuff coming up. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by Green Room. Spotify Green Room is the first social audio platform made for sports fans. Go on there, find a room, join it, listen to some talk, join the talk. You can get up, you can talk via your phone, you can chat, you can just join in. We will be doing a Green Room. It's the perfect place to start or join a conversation about the NBA, the NFL, MLB, even NHL. We have our Locked On MLB and Locked On NHL hosts doing rooms every single week. Go check them out. You will have a chance to chat with us about it. Go download the Green Room app right now, available on iOS devices, and be sure to create a profile, link your Twitter to it, and then join a group, and you'll be notified whenever some room in that group goes live. So join Spotify Green Room. Follow me. I'm at Nick Van Exit, and you'll be notified anytime we go live. Spotify Green Room, changing the way we talk sports. So, all right, Isaac Harris, bring us in.
Well, I just had a question for you. I think over the past few days, we've seen a couple people, Kendrick Perkins, which I don't even respond to any of those. Like, if y'all want to chat with Nick or I about anything,
we should do a top 5
people who don't send me their tweets, and I'll never respond.
Opinions that matter the least to us.
Don't ever send me Kendrick Perkins stuff and ask for a response. I'll never acknowledge any of that stuff.
No,
but I've seen people have sent that to us, and even more recently, Brian Windhorst. I just want to ask you, like, what?
You just lump Brian Windhorst into the people we.
Sure. Well, I mean, if we're just talking about clutch payroll people, then I didn't know if we just continue on that conversation. But, Windhorst said on The Fan, he said, I don't know how many people are going to be excited to play with Luka. Brian Windhorst continues, I think Luka is maybe a difficult person. He's a great player, but when you watch Mavericks play, he's barking at the coach, barking at his teammates, barking at officials. He's always barking about something. He can be really, really irritable guy. You combine that with what some of the crap that, Perkins is saying, like, when you hear this stuff from like national guys right now, like
Perkins' thing was that Trae Young is better than Luka. Teammates want to play with Trae Young more than Luka, like that, all that stuff. Like, okay, here we go.
Let's read the Athletic article with John Collins. But where does your mind go when you've seen some of this stuff over the past week or so about Luka?
Like Luka just goes and he does his thing, right? Like it does. Like Luka gets frustrated when the team's not doing well. He gets frustrated when teammates don't do well. But I don't know, man. Like it just seems like there's it seems like there's an agenda to try and take the villain turn real quick on Luka now, and it seems like it happens to everybody.
Comes to everyone,
it comes to everybody, and sometimes it's just unfounded, right? Like was the Kevin Durant stuff in the Warriors really that bad? If the Warriors still made it and they could still win and still play their, like they would have won, what was it, 4 titles if they didn't get injured there? I mean, some of it doesn't at a certain level, it just doesn't matter. If you can win and you can play together, and it doesn't matter if you love each other or you're super best friends and all that. Sometimes the best friends in sports don't necessarily win games, right? Sometimes you just need good talent that maybe not necessarily gets along that well. It happens in sports, but yeah, it seems like there's somebody is feeding them something. Maybe it's a Donnie Nelson camp, maybe it's a Rick Carlisle camp that's like, hey, guess what? Luka was not super great to play with. And like, how much unless Windhorst is hearing it from somebody in the league, like if he's just saying from his 30,000 foot living in Nebraska like zone, right? Like vantage point, or Perkins in, where is he, in Bristol, Connecticut or wherever, like they don't see stuff, right? Like they don't see stuff, and they don't watch all the games. They don't attend games, you know what I mean? At least Mavericks games. So I'm not taking any stock in stuff like that. Is Luka hard to work with sometimes? Sure, but guess what? So are all these NBA players. They all bark at refs. They all bark at, everybody. And especially if you had a coach that was hard to deal with, like Rick Carlisle was. I mean, it just happens.
Yeah, I would rather take where Luka's at right now, being this over passionate, barking, like the super energetic, wear my emotions on my sleeve type of player, than a player who is just like, hey, I don't give a crap. Like, I'm just here to get my check. I'll do my thing and I'm good, but I'm not.
I was gonna say Kawhi, but I don't know if that. It's not like he doesn't give a crap.
Yeah, but like that attitude, like not give a crap like on the floor, but like that attitude of like, hey, I'm just gonna like whatever. And like the Perkins stuff, that's just like, hey, that just shows his talent evaluation stuff. So I don't care about the Perkins stuff that just gets views, I guess. I don't even want to say clicks, because
I'm done talking about him.
He's not writing anything. But the Windhorst stuff, I just laughed off. It's like your first sentence of that, or your second sentence is like, I think he's a difficult person. I'm like, okay, thank you. Please don't tell me more. Windhorst.
Yeah, I'm done with that. Another really small thing. Sportsnet New York reported that there are some people in the Mavs that are interested in Kelly Oubre. Do we just check it off the bingo card again for the offseason? Like, Mavs interested in Kelly Oubre. There's one guy. Like, who's left in the Mavs? Is it just Keith Grant that loves Kelly Oubre? Like, is he the only one left?
Cuban.
Is it Finley or Cuban? Like, they're the only ones left. Do they love Kelly Oubre so much? I know every time we do a mailbag about the offseason or free agency or trade deadline, we get Kelly Oubre. But like, if he didn't work with the Warriors this year, if he couldn't like rise above that talent level and become like a valuable, like decent player for them, I don't know if he's going to.
Yeah. Well, a wing would be nice on this team, like for a reasonable cost. Wasn't there another like New York report, something about Brunson, or did I see that wrong?
I haven't seen
that at me. Okay, never mind. But yeah, what if the Mavericks just went out this offseason and just signed the past players that they like whiffed on? It's like they bring Dwight in as a backup center.
Darren Williams.
They signed Mike Conley.
Yeah.
Darren Williams is assistant coach with all the other former Mavs.
Darren Williams playing. Hassan Whiteside.
Oh my.
He's still around. Yeah, like this season, Oubre, like he doesn't shoot the three ball well. He does like what does he do that you're bringing him in for? Last two seasons from Kelly.
Fashion.
Last two seasons from Tsunami Papi, just under 33% from three.
That is
not good.
Not as good as Dorian.
It's not, right? Like, you just rather play him more. But yes, that was interesting. Somebody's interested in him. Maybe they can get him for cheap, but I'm not sure about that. Yeah, that's an interesting one. All right, I want to talk about the conference finals because they're happening right now. They're really weird, like just a bizarre conference finals. We just finished watching Hawks versus Bucks, where Giannis went out with a hyperextension in his knee. Our guy Brian Sutterer, Dr. Brian, has a video out already about it, so go check it out on his YouTube channel. Brian. He motors, man. He gets right through those. But I mean, what do we take? And Trae Young missed the game as well. Like, just a weird. We've had at some point the best player on every single team of the conference finals teams, all four teams, has missed a game or two, or multiple games. Chris Paul missed 2 games. Kawhi Leonard has missed now all 4 of the games, or all 5. Has it been 5 games? Missed all 5 games. Yeah. Man, it's just been absolutely weird, these conference finals. Who's coming away with it? Let's start there.
Well, I mean, gosh,
whoever's standing last, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this right after the Bucks-Hawks game, so we don't know anything about the extent of Giannis's stuff.
No.
I think if if Giannis finished this game tonight healthy, I think the Bucks would have still been my pick. I say still, just going to the conference finals. I don't know if that's just it's Bucks or Suns. I would say Suns now because of the Giannis injury. But man, like just watching that freaking Suns team against the Clippers the other night, it just left such a sour taste. I thought Booker was just forcing it. Chris Paul doesn't look the same since coming back from the COVID stuff. And I don't know. It was just weird. But I like their team, though. I like their like top 8.
I think it's Suns. And then it's everyone else. But yeah, they have looked kind of disappointing since that. Like, this is the biggest spotlight that's been on them ever. Any of these guys, maybe in their career, right? Like, have any of these players, except for maybe Chris Paul, played in a moment like this? Like, their rotation is Booker first playoffs, Ayton first playoffs. Did Arizona, like, did they do anything? They weren't like on a huge stage or anything like that. Cam Johnson, first playoffs. Cameron Payne, he's never been in Bridges. Like, all these guys are just
Crowder's the only.
Crowder and Chris Paul. And Crowder's been to the finals, but yeah, Dario Saric, first play. Like, it's just crazy to see that this group. You could also look the other side for the Hawks. A lot of guys are first playoffs. They're young guys. They got through the draft.
So if it's like healthy Bucks versus healthy Suns, you're pretty confident.
I think the Suns. This Bucks team is just so mismanaged, man. Their offense looks so bad.
It's weird, but I think there's a weird world that I think they match up okay with the Suns. Like, I'd like to see Drew on Booker.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
It could. It just
Giannis and Ayton would be fun.
It just doesn't seem like once you get past the one-on-one defense, like once you get the screen, then Booker can get around and he can get what he wants against the rest of the Bucks, it seems like, right? And that's what it comes down to. We don't really get one-on-one matchups as far as this guy plays offense and this guy plays defense, and you just get them isoing on each other. Like, we just don't get that anymore. It's about how the team defends versus how the other team plays offense. And sometimes it's a one-player offense, but yeah. All right, coming up, let's talk more about this. We'll talk about some of the injuries that have happened and figure out who's coming out of the finals, what matters, why does this conference finals even matter, and could the Mavs have gotten in there? We'll talk about that a little bit more coming up. But before we do, let's talk about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar. It tastes like a candy bar. They're delicious. Can't tell you anymore. I'm waiting on my box. Strawberry. I got the mint brownie. And I'm also trying the orange as well. I'm really interested to see how the orange tastes. I think I've had that one before, but strawberry is a new one I'm excited to try. They're absolutely delicious. You can go check them out. BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your first order. Promo code LOCKED15. Most of the bars have 17 grams of protein, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and only 4 grams of net carbs. If you're doing the math, if you're crunching the numbers, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Go check it out. BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at BuiltBar.com. Also want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is the place to put down some money on sports. They have all kinds of stuff. They have NBA draft props. You can bet on Cade Cunningham going number 1 overall. I don't think you'll get very good odds on that. No, he's minus 2,500. That's not very good odds. There's some NCAA tournament odds already. Early odds for the NCAA tournament. Right now, if you want to go bet June 30th, you can go bet on that today. Gonzaga plus 600, Kentucky plus 1,200, Villanova plus 1,200. That's a pretty big gap between Gonzaga and the rest of the field, basically. So go check that out. Duke, Michigan, up there in the top. Is there a North Carolina plus 2,800? That's pretty far down there. Louisville plus 3,300. Not seeing a lot of Texas here. Sorry, guys. Not seeing a lot of Texas. Texas plus 1,800. There you go. Baylor plus 1,800. Go check it out. BetOnline. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Get a 50% welcome bonus to your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris. Let's talk a little bit more about these conference finals. What do we take from all these injuries? Like, it just seems, does this season deserve some kind of asterisk? It just seems like all these injuries have happened. Giannis has now missed time. Kawhi Leonard's missed time. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, Trae Young's missed time. Donovan Mitchell, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Jamal Murray, like Chris Paul with COVID. Like, you just start going down the list, and it's all these guys, like all these top guys in the NBA have started to miss time. The Nets aren't in it. The Lakers aren't in it. Like, the teams that we kind of expected to be up there are not there anymore. And one of these teams, like either Trae Young, Giannis, Chris Paul, or Paul George, is going to win a title. Like one of those guys. What's the narrative going to come out from this finals? Because we're going to look back and it's going to be still a title. It's not going to have an asterisk on it because the NBA doesn't do that. But what are we going to look back on this title and think about?
Well, I think it depends on who wins it. If Trae Young wins it, or even like a Paul George wins it without Kawhi, I think the asterisk stuff will be like more than ever. I still think it would happen for the other two, for the Bucks and Suns. But if one of those two teams win it, I think it'll be a little bit less, just because it's like, oh, the Bucks were a 3 seed, Phoenix was a 2 seed. And it's like, okay, we get, like, I see what the path they went through. But yeah, I think something that I go back to of like, what do we learn from like a Maverick standpoint is, I think it just shows you, like, I go back to that Morey team, of what Morey did with Houston when Golden State had their like dream team together, basically. That Morey just said, hey, I'm going for it. Like, I'm going to put these guys together. We're going to go for it. And they obviously came up short. They didn't make it to the finals. Golden State beat them. But they were this type of playoffs away. They were, these injuries away from going. So I think it once
that Raptors title, they would have won.
Exactly. I think it just goes to show you that no matter if there are teams like Brooklyn out there or whoever it is, or like, even, I know nobody was really scared of the Jazz, but if you're looking at a Jazz team in the middle of the season and saying, man, they're like, on pace for 60 something, wins, it's like, they're just like crazy good team. I still think it just shows you that get the best team you can and go into the playoffs, and you never know what will happen. You never know, because look what happened with Brooklyn. So I just think that's a good reminder of, no matter from here on out, like, no matter how stacked a team can be, no matter how much you think that, I mean, going into the playoffs, everyone's healthy. It's Brooklyn, the Lakers, and probably the Clippers.
Yeah.
Like, those are the 3 teams you're probably looking at and saying, all right, one of these 3 teams are winning the title. And if you're another one of the teams
all healthy, I'd put the Nuggets up there probably too.
That's true. But if you're another team out there in the playoffs and you're looking at it and you're just like, you're at the like trade deadline or something, and you're saying, should we really like go for it? Like, I don't know. Like, I think this is a type of postseason that you look at and say, man, this is why you go for it, because you never know what can happen. And now one of these 4 guys is going to win a title. And especially if somebody like Trae Young and the Hawks win a title, you're like, okay, well, that just shows you like a lot of teams out there, a lot of players out, like, if your cards, fall right, then you'll have a path. So that's just one takeaway for me. Not saying that every single year you just got to throw everything on the table and say you got to go for it every single year for 1 year, but it's just a reminder for me.
The card that fell was that Atlanta happens to be in the eastern quadrant of the United States.
Well, East and Knicks first round, and not really. Well, I don't want to go through all that.
This flawed Sixers team, this flawed Bucks team, right? Like, it's just the path they've beaten the teams in front of them. Giannis now with the injury, Ben Simmons just got. Joel Embiid had that injury. We should include Joel Embiid in that injured list, right? That meniscus tear, that was huge for them.
And the injury stuff is so weird. We were talking before we hit record on this, and Mark Stein, tweeted about it. If it's such a huge narrative right now, but it's also like, you got to look at all the injuries too, because I think it is a combination. I like, you can't ignore the shortened season and the impact on injuries. All that, you can't ignore that. But I also don't think you can look at it and say it's all 100% because of that either, because there are a lot of these injuries, these playoffs, that are freak injuries that are going to happen no matter what. Like, Trae Young stepping on the backwards on a referee, that's probably going to happen anytime. Like, Kyrie Irving landing on Giannis's foot, turning his ankle, that's going to happen. Like, there's been a lot of contact stuff that it's going to happen every single season. It's the soft tissue stuff, it's the hamstrings, it's the Kawhi knee stuff. If we had a couple more players that just like non-contact just fell on the court holding their knee, it's like ACL stuff like that, then I think it's 100. Like, you would look at it. I'm just kind of split on it. It's like, I think it impacted it, but I also think there's a lot of bad luck this year too.
The worst luck, right? I think you also make your own luck, because I think some of these contact injuries also, there's fatigue factor. There's all kinds of different things that can help, like usher in these injuries. I don't know how to say it, like bring them on. So, but yeah, there's no Durant, there's no LeBron. Like, it's just these playoffs are so weird, and these injuries have really taken.
Where's your interest level? Like, on a scale of 1 to 10.
Well, I'm a huge NBA fan, which I think a lot of people are. So I'm in it still. I'm watching every game. I'm in it. as far as like, am I enthralled? Am I curious to see who's going to win? Am I so into it? I don't know. Like maybe like a 5. I'm really curious, but I'm not going to be like, if Chris Paul wins a title, maybe I'll be excited for him. But even it's hard to be excited because you're like, did you really like you beat like which teams did you beat? You beat the Nuggets with like you beat the Lakers without Anthony Davis.
That's how it was
you beat
last
the Nuggets
year,
without Jamal Murray. You beat the Clippers without Kawhi. Like okay, cool. Like and then whoever you beat in the finals, if it's the Hawks or the Bucks, but
and same last year with like LeBron and the Lakers. Like, are you really like that excited? Like you won this bubble tourney and
at least guys were there. These last 2 years have been so strange, and it looks like next year we'll get back into a normal schedule. But
I do think both
short
of them.
off season.
I think if you give one asterisk, I think both of them deserve it. Like if you are handing out the hypothetical asterisk to the season, which they don't, it's always what people don't want to do. But I think both of these seasons combined with everything that's happened, the shortened season this year, COVID stuff, combine it with the bubble, all of that last year, no fans, like the craziness that I think if you're going to lump it together, I think we'll always look back on both of these seasons. Assuming next year will be back to normal, everything's back to normal. I think we'll always remember these 2 seasons as, those were the 2 COVID seasons. Like,
but I think it's when we're a certain amount of time removed, we'll just look back at that bubble season as the one that's the asterisk, and not necessarily this one, because this one is back in front of fans. You look back at highlights and stuff, and there'll be fans there. You know, it's just it'll look more like a normal season than the bubble one will, obviously. And
especially
so I wonder
if like the Bucks win it. If like Giannis wins it,
Kawhi comes back.
And the Clippers do that or something, it's like a natural thing, then I think this year will kind of get forgotten 10 years from now. It'll just be the bubble. But, and I hate to just go back to them, but it's the Hawks were a 5th seed or whatever it was. It's like, if the Hawks win it, I think it will be lumped in as, okay, remember that bubble year? And then the next year was like this crazy shortened season. And the Hawks won it.
And title.
Because if you're picking one of these 4 teams to not make it back to an Eastern or a conference finals over the next 5 years, what team is it?
You want to say Hawks, but I think it's one of the West teams because of just how hard it is. But
okay, I only
Nuggets come back, Lakers come back,
Clippers,
Mavs retool
for sure. But I guess I just lean towards like Suns. I guess Chris Paul is getting older, but like Booker, Ayton, they're already so good right now. Bridges, like they have this really good young core, which the Hawks do too, for sure. But I think Bucks could be back 100%. I guess I go back to the scale 1 to 10 thing. For me, I think I'm at like an 8 or 9. Like I'm having all the games on. I'm just not. I think there's been like years past that I'm on the couch, phone up, like watching everything, even taking notes, maybe making some highlights, like just all in. And I got it on, but I might be like working on some other things. And I'm just like, okay, cool, like fun game. And that's just where I'm at right now. And I don't know why. Maybe that's me getting older or
it's a weird season. Let us know what you think about this conference finals in the comments on YouTube. If you're not, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Really good stuff. 5,000 subs already.
Let's go.
In under 3 months, we made it to 5,000 subs. Like in 3 more months, we're going to be at 10,000. Probably not, but we'll see. I expected 5,000. We'd get there in like a year. And here we are. Boom. Or like 6 months or something. We got there in half the time. So bam. Thank you guys. It's all about the Raccoon Squad. Thank you guys for doing that, subscribing. And guys, we'll be back tomorrow with more stuff. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Boom.